Okay, good morning, everybody. Glad to see you all here this morning. I've got lots of things to cover today, but we always start with if there's anybody new who's joining us. And Michael, Beth's gonna introduce you in a couple minutes, so we can hold that for just a couple minutes.
Alrighty.
Okay. And do we have anybody else who's new today? Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Um, As always, I want to thank, oops, let me change this here. Okay, so as always, well, I think we've already covered any new visitors today, so I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about, well, first of all, thanks to our sponsors, Valley Telecom Group, Care First Health Plan, Kajit, Triad Wireless, and Karen Ziegler Consulting Services. Glad to have you all. Appreciate your support. And just a reminder that, as you all know, that I do send out a newsletter after each meeting. I try to capture any discussions, any announcements that are made during this meeting, as well as sending out the recording and everything. The and so just a reminder that if you are in immediate need to capture the chat, that you can go to chat and in the upper right hand corner, three ellipses, and you can download the chat immediately, or you can wait until you get the chat from me. I just wanted to remind you about that. And let's go ahead and get started. So just a couple of things before we start. Um, Where'd that go? Hmm. Um, so Brenna, are you and Sue good for a while, or do you guys have to bug out pretty soon?
No,
Jason.
I think we're good. Jisoo, do you have any timeline?
No, I'm flexible whenever you are.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we're good.
Well, let's go ahead and start then with our usual with the update from the broadband office. Aaron, do you want to start, please?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Lorandos. I'm the Digital Equity Program Manager. We are from the State Broadband Office, which is housed at the Arizona Commerce Authority. Um, my updates are relatively brief. We are in the open procurement window for the first round of the BEAD applications. And so, of course, because of that, the BEAD side of the house is a little quiet. We do have a number of resources posted on the website. I just dropped the main site in the chat there. You'll see links right on the front page to the BEAD information. And if you go up at the top under initiatives, you can click into the full BEAD page, which will provide you the timeline and all of the documentation that's been posted, including recorded webinars and any public information is really the best place to look for information there. We are hosting technical assistance sessions for approved applicants. And so that's a great opportunity for folks who are, in the throes of applying to get help. And of course, generally always use the broadband at AZ Commerce email address. That goes to everyone on the team, and for transparency and tracking purposes, it's really helpful for us to have all official communication go through that channel so that it can be documented properly. On the DE side of things, not anything very specific other than the nebulous statement that I've been making that very soon we will be updating the DE portion of the page to reflect a more specific timeline and share the next steps around some of the implementation that will be happening. That will include a subgrant process for basically any project or program that addresses the goals and objectives in our approved digital equity plan. So folks who have been in that space will know the first thing to do is to read the plan and check and see what sorts of projects and programs your organization might be able to propose. And again, we will be releasing information on that very soon. I will drop email addresses in the chat here for the DE stuff. You can still just reach out to me directly. I'm probably your easiest way to do that. We are able to have, one-on-one conversations right now, to kind of align if you're wondering if a project or program would align, things like that. We can definitely talk about that. Same thing though, in the future when our sub-grants open, we'll be in a quiet period for the DE piece as well. Let me just check my notes from the team to see if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. That was all I was told to say. So unless there are any questions, I'm going to be here the whole time. So feel free to pop something in the chat if you have something later on too.
Okay, any questions for Erin? Going once, going twice. Okay, if not, then let's move on the agenda today. And if I can get back to the agenda. So, Nicole, I don't believe you're online, are you? Okay. So so many of you have already met Beth Neely, who is the Arizona Department of Education CIO, and she has an introduction to make today. So take it away, Beth.
Hi, everybody. So I just want to introduce Michael Kendall. So Michael joined us 2 weeks ago, and he is now the Arizona Department of Education. He is our broadband and infrastructure project manager. So I do want to introduce him, kind of talk a little bit about his role. He will be managing all of the Arizona Broadband Expansion Fund projects. So all of the schools or libraries that are doing any type of special construction through the E-rate program. So that is going to be his responsibility. And then he's also going to assist ADE in some of its infrastructure projects as well. So I am really excited to have Michael here. I'm going to be able to go back to my day job. It is exciting for me to have him. And again, it has been an exciting, I think now 4 months, and everything that I have learned about special construction and broadband has been incredible. So it's been a good time for me, actually. But so a couple of things that are going on. Michael and I are currently working on the existing schools, planning on seeing that construction gets wrapped up by June 30th. So we're working with the schools and the vendors on getting that stuff wrapped up for the year. I did want to say a very interesting. You mean you want to do E-rate? No, I see Mala on there. The special construction for the E-rate. I do not want to do E-rate. But something interesting, and I wanted to kind of share with you. This year, the 470 window closes February 26th. And this year, we've only had 3 schools that have committed to special construction projects for the fiscal year 25 funding year. So we're going to be working on a strategy and how we get out there, do more communications with the schools, trying to make sure they're all aware of the opportunities that they've got. So we'll be working on a plan for that for next year. And we've got a month more to go. I don't know what's going to yet pop in for fiscal year 25. I'm going to also in the chat we are working on expanding our Arizona Broadband Expansion Fund. Oops, I just sent you the wrong link. Hold on, guys. It's a good thing that's there we go. All right. So
actually Michael is in one of them.
Got it. There it is, guys. So we're working on our webpage adding some information, going through some of our new processes and procedures that we've implemented. So keep an eye out there as we kind of grow that. And that's really, I think, all I've got today, other than I'm excited to have Michael there and forward to him learning from you guys as we go and participating broadband for the state.
Because if you go over to the third
Yeah,
Monday,
who's,
I don't
speaking
I don't know who that is.
there? I don't either, but I will try and find out.
I think I do. Hang on.
Okay.
Alicia, we can hear you. I found it. I'm like, that sounds like our admin.
Okay. Any questions for Beth?
Mala, did I answer your question?
Ha ha. Of course you did. I
Good.
know it. So frantically tried to find someone to get out of doing E-rate now this year. Am I right?
Yeah.
Welcome, Michael. Thank you. Thank you, Beth, for introducing
that-
Michael.
I figured that was your question. I'm like, oh, no.
You lucked out, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is though, it's a little disheartening to see only 3 schools right now. Again, we have a month more to go, so I might be surprised over the next month and what pops up.
Everything in E-rate happens in the last week, last
Yeah.
2 weeks. So
Maybe that's what will happen because we do have quite a bit of funding left. So we're looking forward to serving the schools that we can for their special construction.
right. Yeah, happy to meet with you, Beth and Michael, soon. Yeah.
Perfect.
Look
Thank
forward
you.
to it. Thank you.
So Beth, is there any plans or discussions about the last mile project, or is that kind of not happening anymore?
Yeah, the last mile is, I guess if I don't want to say it's no longer, but yeah, it's there's no longer a last mile project. We're just calling it the Arizona Broadband Expansion Fund. We've got quite a bit of funding left. That is obviously public knowledge in the JLBC reports that we submit every June and December. So it is not money that is lost. I think that's the appropriate term. It's money that rolls over. So we've got quite a bit in our bank, and we look forward to using that for the schools for broadband projects.
What kind of projects can be funded with that money?
You have to be an E-rate school, and now you're putting to the test all of my knowledge over the last 4 months.
Well, I can answer that question.
I was going to
for
say
you.
well, I want to try, Mala. Let me see how
Okay.
Category 1. Oh, I had that on my board. I was turning around. I was going to go to my cheat sheet. Category 1. Category 1 is special construction. Now you can help me out, Mala. So any cat 1, correct?
Right.
So
Actually, category 1 is internet to the door, but the special construction is fiber, fiber layout to schools and libraries with that extra additional fund that USAC gives if the state puts in additional funding. So if you're, let's say, a 90% library or school, and USAC will put, and then the state is putting in 5% additional, then USAC will put in 5%. So there's no construction cost at all to schools or libraries. The maximum that USAC will put in is 10%. So if you're at 80%, you will not have to pay anything else. But 70%, yes, the schools or libraries will have to focus in more unless the state has funding to
Yeah.
extra. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, and then also it's kind of like the one-time cost, right? That's kind of how I looked at it, how I learned it. And it can include project management, services in that. It's any one-time cost to get that in and stood up.
Yes.
Whether it's laying conduit, whether it's lit fiber, dark fiber, whether it's pulling the fiber. So it's all of those one-time costs
Right.
associated.
And the recurring cost for internet can be claimed from E-rate subsequent years as well.
Yes. Does that answer? Thank you, Mala. You're like my partner in crime.
She is with everybody. So there's a couple of questions. Is the funding only for fiber projects?
No, it can be this is another good one. Microwave. I think that's what it is. I think we're doing one right now with microwave. Yeah. So no, it's not necessarily just for fiber. Do you guys want me to put a link for everyone that describes?
It's the most cost-effective option. So whatever is most cost-effective, it's not technology dependent.
I know, so go back.
And Beth, if I could add, I think it includes switches, routers as well.
Switches,
hardware.
routers would, if you're going to do switches, routers internally within the building, then it would be category 2. But anything that is outdoors and that is a one-time construction cost, yes, Michael, yeah, it would be a part of the construction.
I'm gonna send everybody a link to read up on all of the qualifications. And I think they've also expanded it this year to mobile hotspots, which is kind of new. I don't know if that happened this year or last year. So for any schools that have any type of mobile, I know Aaron works a lot on they have a new mobile hive, I believe is what they call it. So anything their school uses that's mobile now as well can be is eligible.
The mobile hotspots used to be eligible through the ECF program before, and once the ECF program died, then mobile hotspots have now become available this year. This is the first year that it's become available as a part of E-rate. So those who have mobile hotspots already, there are rules for whether you can use the recurring costs on those hotspots. But again, it's complex. So if anyone is interested in applying, I'm sure, Michael, you're up to date with it. And if not, contact me. I'm happy to help.
And I'm putting the 2025 eligibility list in there as well for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And Beth, if you could tell us how much is left in the construction, special construction?
I'm going to just put approximately 3 million. It might be 3,036,000, something like that. Right around.
That's good to know.
Yeah, right around 3 million.
Right.
Okay.
So that should be about 5 to 10% of your project. So projects that are larger than that, yes, that's the 3 million, up to 3 million is what is the 5 to 10% our share of the cost.
Okay. Any questions for Beth? If not, Michael, so do you want to just say hello and anything that you want to share with us this morning?
Yeah, it's really good to be on board. As Beth said, this is my second week, so I have been learning a lot. Got my learning cap on for sure. But my background is, and I've done broadband projects, but not familiar with E-rate and the rest. But my background is in the utility industry. I work for Arizona Public Service. I had a long career with them, and then took a few months off. I retired from there in March of last year. And so just getting back into the workforce. But like I said, it's really good to be on board. And this is a great program, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of it.
Great. Well, we welcome you and encourage you to attend whenever you can. As you've already heard from, particularly from our dear friend Mala, that we have lots of folks who have a lot of expertise and are here to help whenever we can.
Right. I will not hesitate. I'm not shy. I am not shy. And I think, Beth, you had mentioned before that she was a great resource for us to, just given her experience and all of her willingness to help us out.
Yeah.
Great. Glad to help wherever we can.
Yeah, but I'll see. Are these weekly meetings?
Yes, and I've already added you to our email list, so you should be getting regular notices.
Right. No, I will be attending. No reason why I shouldn't be able to. I've got the time blocked out, so I'll be learning a lot over the next few weeks. That's for sure.
Sounds
Appreciate
good.
it.
Well, welcome. So we're going to move on. And Sharika, I see your question about equity, and I think we're going to have our guests, which we're going to get to right now, who may, among other things, may address that issue. So Elena, do you want to introduce Brenna and Jisoo? I hope I get it right. Jisoo Song?
Yeah, that's correct.
I want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, I'd
Elena,
be
would
happy
you like
to.
to introduce them?
I don't know Jisoo personally. I just know him through Brenna. So
Okay.
Brenna, I think I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and Jisoo.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still muted. Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having us today. For those who don't know me, my name is Brenna Leeser. I work with Common Sense Media. I'm their tech policy counsel, so primarily doing and working on digital equity and broadband expansion, affordability issues, but have also kind of dug my heels into platform accountability issues facing kids and tech, since that's our main issue, as well as digital equity, AI literacy, things like that. And I'll hand it over to Jisoo.
Awesome. So thank you, Steve and Brenna and Alina for pulling me into this conversation. I'm Jisoo Song, Director of Projects and Initiatives at CEDA. Previously, I was with the Office of Ed Tech.
Can you tell people what CEDA is?
Yeah, sure. I was just getting to that. But previously, I was at the Office of Ed Tech at the U.S. Department of Ed, where I led the development of K-12 digital equity guidance, led the Online for All campaign, alongside Common Sense, actually, when the Affordable Connectivity Program was a thing, supported the development of the National Ed Tech Plan and things like that. Yeah, CEDA, it used to stand for the State Ed Tech Directors Association, but now we just go by CEDA now. We're a professional association that represents state ed tech and digital learning leaders from 40-ish member states, as well as affiliate and corporate members that share our mission. And we regularly convene those state-level ed tech leaders to help them exchange best practices on policy and implementation, and then conduct research and advocacy on various ed tech topics as well, including a lot of broadband. So, Steve, I have a couple of slides that I would love to share,
Sure.
if that's okay with you. Yeah,
Absolutely. Oh, it looks like let me stop sharing and then you can go ahead and share.
awesome. Let me make sure that I share the right screen. Give me one moment. All right, no, that is the wrong screen. Give me 1 second. Here we go. All right, are you seeing that first slide? Just give me a thumbs up if you do. Awesome. Great. So yeah, we'd love to share some of the work that we've been doing under the CEDA Universal Connectivity Imperative this year, but we won't have too much time to get into every single detail. So I would love to invite you all to join next week's webinar, where we'll actually dive deeper into the content. We'll speak with the contributors to this project. We'll invite some state and federal policymakers, including state legislators and federal Hill staffers, to talk about the issue of broadband and digital equity. We'll also get some teacher and student perspectives on this issue as well. So I'll drop the webinar registration information in the chat, actually, if anyone is interested in joining and discussing further. But yeah, let me sort of talk a little bit about what led to this project a little bit. So beginning in the past decade, in the 2010s, our organization, CETA, used to publish a series of reports called the Broadband Imperative. That had a deep focus on school building connectivity. So it set school level bandwidth goals, had a chance to influence the E-rate modernization order. And those reports also called for state level leadership around E-rate implementation. But as soon as the third report in the series came out in 2019, the pandemic hit in 2020, and it spurred a rapid national movement towards K-12 digital equity. Obviously, there were those infrastructure investments through the BEAD program, which I heard someone talk about before we came on. There was the prioritization of affordability and adoption through things like the ACP and the Digital Equity Act. And as we move into 2025 and onwards, we were thinking, how do we sustain those significant gains that we've made over the last 5 years, especially when it comes to our K-12 stakeholders? How do we accelerate progress towards K-12 universal connectivity so that no students are barred from accessing technology-empowered learning and developing those career readiness skills? So those kinds of questions were what led to CETA launching our Universal Connectivity Imperative, or UCI, initiative in last summer. We aim to take stock of what we've learned over the last 4 or 5 years so that we can properly chart the way forward. And the objectives of the report were threefold. One, to assess the state of digital access in K-12 education as it stands now, explore some strategies that state and other sector leaders are using to address the issue of digital access, and provide state and federal policymakers with recommendations for how we continue moving forward. So you can find the full report in that link that you'll find at the bottom left of each slide. Just before I dive into the content of the report, just a quick word about methodology. We had months and months of focus group conversations with federal, state, and local government leaders, researchers, nonprofit organizations, some representatives from industry, and then we had a chance to talk with K-12 students and teachers as well as end users of all of this access. We had a CETA working group membership, which Brenna was able to join, that helped distill these conversations into key takeaways and policy recommendations. And the names of organizations and affiliations of everyone that's been involved is included in the acknowledgement section if you're curious. So with all that intro out of the way, let me just dive into what's actually in this report. We begin with asking the question, why are we talking about this issue in the first place? Why K-12 universal connectivity? I think this group probably knows better than anyone, but the research is pretty clear. It sets the necessary conditions for many things that we consider important as a country, right? At the very least, it's important for academic achievement and well-being. There's positive links between student performance and the extent to which they're connected to reliable and affordable service, both off and on campus. Access to public health information, telehealth services, mental wellness resources also links connectivity to overall well-being. Building on that, it sets students up to build those career-ready skills and pathways to opportunity, right? We have folks like the National Skills Coalition that's been estimating that over 90% of current jobs open in the US require some level of digital skills. And the rapid adoption of emerging technologies like AI by different industry sectors will continue to accelerate this trend. So universal connectivity allows students to use tools to help them develop skills that they'll need in the workforce as well. And that builds to larger societal and economic gains we see through the research. Links between higher academic achievement with income and GDP contributions. So K-12 universal connectivity really matters for national prosperity and growth overall. So the current state of universal connectivity in K-12, the report dives into 4 different dimensions of achieving universal connectivity in our sector. For each dimension, we synthesize the current challenges, what's being done to remedy gaps, and the policy recommendations to continue accelerating that progress. Again, I can't dive into all of the details in the report, so I recommend joining that webinar next week, but I'll just hit on some of the major themes in the next slides. The first thing we talk about is broadband and devices. I think we've made really great progress on this dimension over the past decade in connecting school buildings, but the digital access divide really manifests when students exit the campus, right? Often because of high costs of maintaining that service. And it causes a lot of educators actually to limit their instructional strategies because of concerns of students' level of home connectivity. I think to remedy this gap, it's been really great to see federal leaders creating flexibilities in the E-rate program to support off-campus access. We also see state leaders investing funds in response to affordability challenges. For example, your neighbors in New Mexico, they've been investing $25 million through the Student Connect program to provide students in remote areas with 3 years of free access. The way forward, with the ACP sunset last year, I think as a field, we've been calling for permanent solutions to tackle those affordability challenges, whether it be through the Universal Service Fund or another policy vehicle. And then working towards this also requires federal and state leaders to use some common data standards to track the impact of those investments. And in the report, we propose a blueprint of data elements that could really help with this as well. The next dimension we looked at was the issue of digital skills that I've mentioned before. I think the discourse around screen time and the rapid adoption of AI-powered technologies really necessitates a discussion around digital skill development, right? And according to some data from the U.S. Department of Education that we collected when we were back there, when I was back there, digital skill building opportunities often reach students, but often fail to reach families. So what's being done? I think a lot of states have been doing some great work in incorporating digital literacy and citizenship skills into their core content learning standards and deploying personnel to help them with digital skill development. Delaware is a national leader on that front. And then in Washington, the state education agency has been offering some digital navigator grants to districts so that they can host some multilingual workshops to help parents and caregivers get acquainted with how to use different tools to help their kids. The way forward, I think we continue to need guidance and technical assistance to help schools and districts create some dedicated ed tech plans that emphasize digital skill development. Our organization does an annual survey that's funded through the Siegel Family Endowment, and we found through that survey that 90% of states said that they don't require districts to develop a dedicated ed tech plan. So there's much to be improved there. I think there's also several proposals in Congress right now for funding digital skill development opportunities, especially when it comes to the development of AI literacy. So excited to see what's going to happen with this issue in the 119th. The third issue that we looked at was online privacy and cybersecurity practices. That survey that I mentioned before that we do annually, state ed tech directors say that cybersecurity continues to be the top concern for states year after year after year. There's a lot of system level capacity issues to handle all the incoming demands. There's the issue of accelerating AI adoption. All of these factors are creating sort of a less than ideal environment without much dedicated support. So what's being done? I think the federal government has been doing a good job of creating a coordinating council that helps different levels of government collaborate to examine and solve different issues. And states have been also creating some dedicated task forces, including some in North Carolina that we call out in the report with explicit K-12 representation. And they've been also been developing tools and guidance to help districts procure different ed tech that protect student and family information. So moving forward on this issue, I think the E-rate cybersecurity pilot has also been a great step, but we need to evaluate the impact of that investment on schools so that we can continue to identify the way that the federal government can step in to offer support beyond the expiration of that pilot. And Congress also has an opportunity this time around to equip federal agencies with the capacity to provide better guidance and technical assistance on this issue to states and districts. And then lastly, we looked at the inclusivity of digital tools and platforms. Popularity of a tool or a platform is still often the driving force behind procurement decisions, not whether the product is evidence-based or responds to different learner variability. And lack of representation in the technology sector also contributes to the development of solutions that overlook this issue as well. So I know federal leaders, especially at the Department of Justice, has been enforcing new rules to ensure state and local web content and mobile applications are meeting new higher accessibility standards, and then offering technical assistance to meet those requirements. And then a network of nonprofits are also working side by side with industry to develop equitable pathways into the technology sector as well. So moving forward on this issue, I think we've been calling for system level adoption, especially at the state level, of the Universal Design for Learning principles, or the UDL principles that CAS has developed to drive decisions around curriculum, professional development, and procurement. If you aren't familiar with CAS's UDL framework, it's a research-based framework that calls for using technology that provides learners with multiple means of engaging them, representing content, assessing knowledge to meet those accessibility sort of criteria as well. And I think there's proposals in Congress right now to also create and support agencies dedicated to R&D around tools and platforms that are designed specifically for historically underserved student populations. So there's opportunities there to move forward on this issue. With all this information in mind, the report concludes with several specific legislative and administrative recommendations for state and federal policymakers. And all of these goals and things like that are designed to help progress towards these 5 central action areas. The first one being, ensuring all K-12 students can access services that meet or exceed the FCC's new broadband benchmark speed. The second goal being ensuring all K-12 students have individual access to at least one internet-enabled device, and building a regular refresh cycle for devices that are provided through school systems. The third one being ensuring K-12 students and families have access to digital skill building opportunities through their schools and other community institutions as well. This needs to be a community-wide approach so that the work doesn't fall solely on schools as stretched as they are right now. Goal number 4, ensuring K-12 students can access tools and platforms that protect their own as well as their family's information safe and secure. And then lastly, ensuring that K-12 students access digital tools and platforms that recognize and are responsive tools, their own variability as learners. And then the final thing that we include in the report are several overarching considerations that state and federal policymakers should keep in mind as they work towards any of these policy goals that we set. First of all, a commitment to equity, continuous monitoring and evaluation of policy initiatives so that investments are actually increasing access across all K-12 demographics. Sustainable funding, we call this out over and over again. Many pandemic-era solutions have run dry in the past year, as we know. Therefore, reliable funding is a significant barrier in sustaining some of those system-level efforts. So we highlight different methods and options for remedying this gap, including possibly restoring the Enhancing Education Through Technology, or the E2T2 program, in a potential future reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. And we have actually authored a memo about this, which I'll put in the chat. And then finally, adaptive guidelines. I think it's pretty inevitable that in the near future, users are going to demand additional bandwidth in just a matter of years. So geographic areas that are considered well-connected today may be soon inadequately served. So federal state policymakers will need to be flexible as they determine the types of technologies that various programs support, as well as in their definition of what adequate broadband means. And I know NTI has released some guidance around that flexibility in the last couple of months, and that's been good to see. So that's, in a nutshell, what the report contains. The URL is, again, in the bottom left of the slide. I'll actually pass to Brenna to talk about, the goals from UCI and what actually seems kind of feasible within the new political landscape.
Yeah, thanks, Jisoo. And you can head over to the next slide. Yeah. So I know that this has been a previous installment. I think this is the 4th installment of the what we know, what we think we know, what we don't know. Obviously, things are starting to become a little bit more clear, but I think most of what I'm going to talk about can fall into any one of these buckets. But starting with what we know, so leadership changes. In terms of the administrative changes, Commissioner Carr at the FCC has become chair. And President Trump has recently nominated Olivia Trusty to replace the spot left by Chair Rosenworcel. Olivia previously worked in the telecom industry. I think she worked at Verizon, and she has also worked for Representative Latta and Senator Wicker, and has been a lot supported by both sides of the aisle in terms of her expertise with telecom policy. A former Cruise commerce staffer, Ariel Roth, has been nominated by the administration to be the NTIA administrator. This has raised some concerns with the digital equity advocates because, as many of you may know, Senator Cruz has been very critical of the Digital Equity Act program. So there's some likelihood that she was obviously involved in a lot of the publications and speaking and engagements and opinions that Senator Cruz has put out around DEA. So it could be a way for her to, continually make changes to the program that may not be beneficial. And then on the congressional side, obviously, Senator Cruz is now the chair of the Senate Commerce Committee. Representative Guthrie is the chair of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. And obviously, Vice President Vance was a big advocate for the Affordable Connectivity Program when he was Senator of Ohio. It's yet to be seen if his position will be fruitful for any broadband affordability efforts. I don't think we've heard anything from him in a while around broadband affordability being a major issue that he wants to continue focusing on, but obviously could be an advocate for us if that comes to pass. Another thing of what we know in terms of state action, so a little bit different from the Trump administration and the 119th, the Supreme Court declined to weigh in on, the New York Affordable Broadband Act. And this essentially was a law passed in 2021, but has been going through litigation that requires large ISPs, so I think serving over 200,000 households in New York State, had to offer a low-cost subscription to New York residents. So either for $15 a month for 25 megabits per second or $20 a month for 200. This has already been seen and used as kind of the path forward for other states. I saw that Massachusetts had just introduced a bill modeled off of this bill, and I know there's some other states that are planning to introduce soon as well. So in terms of more state-led efforts on broadband affordability, this could be a great path forward that survives any scrutiny. In terms of what we think we know, as we talked about, and Juicy talked about during the presentation, digital equity was a big issue for the Biden-Harris administration. And 2/3 of the Digital Equity Act competitive grants have 2/3 of the funding available have been announced. So these have been recommended projects for award by NTIA. And although the projects have been announced, which is great, the funding is not yet safe until the funding has been obligated. And so this is a process that NIST has to do. So this could take a few months. And we still have that third tranche of funding that is not yet announced. So it's to be seen what will happen with the announced funding and also with that third tranche of funding, if it ever is announced, if the program's paused, if the funding is rescinded. It's hard to say. Also for tech issues for Congress generally, obviously tech has been a big issue for Congress in the past few years. A lot of discussions around AI safety regulation, but also a lot of focus has been given towards optional guidelines. And also kids online safety. COSA was a big bill last year that we saw, as well as children's privacy. So tech will likely to continue to be a focus of Congress. However, the approaches will likely be significantly less comprehensive and more targeted on specific issues. Senator Cruz has been really involved in AI-generated CSAM, so that's child sexual exploitation material, AI generated. So we'll likely see that pop up again. Excuse me. And as well as spectrum reauthorization. This has been an issue for a while now, and previous chair, now ranking member Cantwell, on Senate Commerce this has been a big issue for her that she had tried to address, but had issues doing it last Congress. So we'll likely see it pop up again. And then what we don't know, there's a lot of things since they've kind of yet to shake out. Status of the Universal Service Fund. So this is the fund that funds programs like Lifeline, E-rate, rural healthcare facilities, rural deployment, high cost areas, things like that. The Supreme Court is likely to weigh in on the program's constitutionality this summer. So it is yet to be seen if the program will stand as is until then. But at the same time, there's been a Senate working group that has been kind of wrestling behind closed doors of how to potentially change the program or change the fund in terms of its contribution and distribution to make the program more financially sustainable. So haven't heard anything on that yet recently. But if the Supreme Court decides that the program is unconstitutional, then Congress will be forced to act to maintain the program or to maintain the fund and all the programs it supports. But if Supreme Court says it is constitutional, we might just see the status quo of the USF persist, since Democrats will likely not want to make any changes to the program when they aren't in charge of the change that will be made, essentially. And then last, impacts to BEAD. Regardless of like the major changes that are made to BEAD, we'll probably see a lot more benefits to ISPs, like a more safe environment and beneficial environment to ISPs under BEAD. But the low cost requirement of the program, which has faced a lot of scrutiny from Republicans specifically, calling it rate regulation, will probably be a target, as well as the fiber preference, especially because Elon Musk's involvement with the administration. I'm assuming Starlink will be a beneficiary of any BEAD related changes. And then relatedly to Elon Musk, programs impacted by the DOGE, like the Department of Government Efficiency related cuts, as well as any reconciliation related cuts. They're like the administration's looking to have another reconciliation bill similar to the 2017 tax cuts. So obviously some programs will be impacted to fund anything that's in the program or in the legislation. So that could be an angle for DEA to be impacted, unlikely BEAD, but possible, as well as general departmental government cuts, since the administration has said that they want to cut $2 trillion in government spending. And in my opinion, this will be difficult to accomplish regardless, but especially if they want to sidestep a lot of the issues that they don't want to have cuts to, like law enforcement, immigration, defense, as they claimed they will. So it's yet to be seen exactly how everything will shake out. But reconciliation specifically, this is a process that's already kind of started in the background, and we'll likely see what's in the bill within the next few months, and it'll be completed by around April. Most reconciliation bills are finished by April, May. So we'll probably see what that entails pretty soon. But lots of changes happening. So we'll have to see kind of how things shake out, but that's kind of my take on the situation.
Thanks, Brenna. Any questions for Brenna or G? So I have a couple of questions, and I apologize if I missed it, but what are we hearing from the new chair of the FCC and the new administrator from NTIA in terms of their position and advocacy for USF?
I'm not sure what Chair Carr has said as of late. I know Chair Rosenworcel has said, has called in the past for Congress to act to pass legislation to explicitly give the FCC and USAC the authority to manage the programs. I'm not sure if Carr has said anything explicitly as of late, but in terms of the Ariel Roth, the new NTIA administrator, she hasn't been confirmed yet. On the slide there, Olivia Trusty and Ariel Roth both haven't been confirmed, so I'm not sure exactly what her positions on like something like a USF would be, but given her position working for Cruise on programs like the Digital Equity Act, like she in all likely like helped write the letter that Cruise had published around the program being discriminatory and things like that. So I would assume she would be not supportive.
And I'll also chime in here. What we know, based on what Commissioner Carr has said publicly, is that he recognizes that the revenue base of USF as a whole is broken, right? We know that E-rate has been, a bipartisan supported program. So I think it's a guessing game to see like what his like stance on the program itself looks like. But as far as the revenue base of the program goes, I think we've seen in publications like the chapter of Project 2025 he has written, or other statements that he made, that the telecom-based revenue of the USF program as a whole he recognizes is not sustainable. So it'd be interesting to see where that leads, if he's going to call for accountability for big tech in that field, or the edge providers. A number of proposals have been up there in Congress, right, to expand the revenue base. So we'll have to see. This is something that our members at CETA, who often help out with E-rate implementation, have seen as well, to make sure that our schools and libraries are getting the benefits that they need. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see like where that revenue conversation goes.
Okay. Other questions? So I have another question, not related specifically to what Brenner was talking about, but in your study, what is your perception about how small school districts are doing in terms of planning? I mean, obviously, rural schools is still a challenge for them, but and Molly, while you're at it, since obviously it's an issue for libraries. How are they doing in terms of need for technical assistance in doing planning? I mean, we know that a lot of rural schools, that their CIO is also the football coach, and who knows what else. So I'm wondering if you have any perspective about that.
No, you're exactly right, Steve. Capacity is the biggest sort of limiting factor in a lot of those districts, as well as some of the smaller states. Something surprising that you might not know is that in smaller states, the ed tech office, quote unquote, at the Department of Education might be a team of one or two, right? So capacity can be a limiting factor in terms of trying to get guidance out and policies implemented when it comes to digital skills, cybersecurity, and all the other things that we've mentioned here. Procurement of ed tech is a big one, because when it comes to smaller ed tech districts, it's not like they're going to have an internal research team or a budget to contract with the university to help them vet different products for how inclusive or evidence-based they are as well, right? So that's why in our report, we strongly encourage Congress to take another look at a fund that used to exist to be able to support that kind of capacity building, the Enhancing Education Through Technology program, that used to reside within Title IID of No Child Left Behind, but also which got removed when that law got reauthorized as the Every Student Succeeds Act. ESSA in December 2025 will be 10 years old, so it's long due for reauthorization. We'll see what the 119th Congress decides to do with any, national K-12 law, but this is something that our community has continued to advocate for, to be able to help out with those smaller districts and schools, districts and states, excuse me.
Thank you. G, could you stop sharing, please?
Absolutely. And then I'll also just copy the Zoom registration link to the webinar next week. That will dive deeper into the UCI report if anyone else missed that and would like to join.
So can anybody join CETA, and is there a cost, et cetera, et cetera?
Our members are primarily state level folks, state education agencies. I believe Arizona is a member. And then we have affiliate organizations that share our mission, or we also have corporate members as well, who would like to support the work that our state members do. So if you're interested about finding out more about the CETA community, I'll put our general inbox in the chat. We also hired a new director of membership and corporate engagement, so that she'll be able to answer questions about those types of things.
So I'm assuming that, speaking for myself and others, that we probably like to get notifications about your different webinars and things like that. And so
Absolutely.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
have to be a member to be on a list to be able to get those notifications.
I believe we do maintain like an external contacts list, so I can find out more about that. Yeah.
Okay. So Brenna, do you have anything else? Any last minute thoughts before we move on?
Nope, nothing for me. But yeah, just be sure to reach out if you have any questions. I think my contact information is in the notes. If anyone wants to reach out with anything else.
Okay. Well, thanks, Brenna. We know it's a moving target up there these days, and understanding what's happening, what's not happening. It's a pretty crazy time right now. So I appreciate you being here and giving us an update. So with that, good transition. Mala, do you want to kind of share with us your perspectives and also maybe what's happening with the State Library?
Really, not much more than what everyone has spoken about already. Yes, it is. It's kind of the uncertainty of what next that's scary, but I'm hoping for the best, at least for this year. I don't think there are going to be too many changes as far as E-rate goes. It is our peak E-rate season time. I'm trying to work with the libraries to complete um, their RFPs, their Form 470, as E-rate calls it. And the state master contracts are likely to be out either by the end of January or very early February, because those master contracts can be used by both schools and libraries applying for E-rate. These are carrier contracts, only telecom carrier contracts. The internal connection category 2 contracts are already done by the Mojave Educational Services, and those who are members of the Mojave Educational Consortium can actually buy off of it. And the schools and libraries are already members. So they can buy off of those contracts. So I'm working with them to try and get them through this period. As Beth mentioned, February 26th is the last date when a Form 470 or an RFP can be put out. Contracts we have to wait for 28 days to do the contract, and the deadline for application is March 28th. So working through all of those nitty-gritties and through what is eligible, what isn't eligible, and any changes, especially the hotspot. That's a new addition this year. So there are a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainties about how to go about doing this. So that's a busy Q&A for me with the libraries right now. Other than that, I'm just watching what's happening with the DEI, as well as if to see whether it's going to affect us in any way. The libraries do have programs for digital inclusion. All of our libraries do. We have our digital inclusion a librarian, and Anthony. So, it is something that we need to watch and see how it pans out.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions from Mala? Okay. So moving on, have a couple of other folks that have joined us this morning. First of all, Matthew, are you still here?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone.
So you probably all have met Matthew before with USDA, and pleased for him to give us a little update what's happening with USDA. So you're on, Matthew.
All righty, thank you. Very much appreciated. And good morning, everyone. And given the time and my civil service position. I will be relatively brief on this. But USDA Rural Utility Service has a few weeks ago announced the opening of its competitive district distance learning telemedicine program. This is a competitive grant program nationwide. The floor for the grant amounts is $50,000 and the ceiling is $1 million. Requires a 15% match. And it's a program designed to support school districts, rural hospitals that have severe challenges in reaching their customer base due to distance considerations. Pretty cut and dry, pretty basic, and just want to make sure that folks that tune into this call, the expansive network, is aware of this. I do want to make sure that folks, and I'll place the link to the information sheet in the chat, and I would encourage interested organizations and individuals to certainly look at the 2 webinars that are coming up for this program, and these are national webinars. One is being held today, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and then the second is on February 6th, again, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, pretty pedestrian. It's a grant opportunity. Some rural hospitals and school districts in Arizona have benefited very well from this program. And then Community Connect, the Community Connect
Excuse
program.
me, Matthew, before you move on, you mentioned
Yes.
match requirements. Can you talk about what kind of match is required? Is it
Yeah,
cash?
15,
time?
yeah, 15% match is the minimum requirement. It's primarily a cash match. In-kind can be used, but that can create some complexities and vulnerabilities. We typically see cash match coming in.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, now go on, please.
Yes, and I also wanted to note that the Community Connect program is set, a competitive grant cycle is set to open, I believe, on February 10th or February 20th. And let me get the date right for you all. That will be opening on February 20th, approximately a month away. So that's on the horizon. I believe the Broadband Support Network heard a presentation from the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority a few months ago on their Community Connect project. Other than that, Steve and the team here with the network, that's what I do have to report today.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Matthew? So a good segue for Matthew is Michelle Simon. Michelle, you still there?
I am still here. Good morning, everybody.
How are you feeling?
Well, if you can hear, I sound a little hoarse, but I'm doing better today than I was yesterday. Steve has given me an opportunity just to let you all know that Pima County received a grant award from the Rural Utility Service through their Broadband Technical Assistance Program to do a broadband gap and feasibility analysis for Pima and Santa Cruz counties. We were awarded $487,733. We're very excited about that. We will be creating an RFP for to get a consultant on board to help us create the required report. So that'll be forthcoming in the next couple of months. But it is a 2-year grant, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. But we're very excited about it and very appreciative of the USDA and their programs. Thank you. Great. Oh, and also just so I can chime in real quick, I put an event in the chat, a save the date for a community service provider forum that we're going to do in Pima County related to digital access and digital skill building for community members. This is really a discussion / exchange of ideas and information. So if you want to come down to Pima County, if you don't already live there, mark your calendar. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? Okay, moving on. I think we're getting close to the end of the agenda here and time. But I did see Sharika. Are you still here? Sharika, are you still here? Okay, I guess she's gone for today. So I think we're kind of done. Are there any other, I don't think John Kelly's on. Are there any other announcements that people have that they'd like to share this morning?
Yeah, I actually have one, Steve. I think you know what it is.
Yep. I didn't do it, you did.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I have a new role at Common Sense. I am the new director of global strategy. So I'm going to be backing away a little bit from the work that I've been doing locally on digital inclusion and digital literacy in Arizona. It doesn't mean it's going away. It just means a lot of my time now is going to be spent overseeing and coordinating Common Sense's global strategy and our growth overseas. So just letting you all know that if I'm not at meetings where you normally see me, that's probably why. I know that I'm going to we're sponsoring a Paris AI Summit in February 9th. So I will be in the UK for some events and then heading over to Paris for that event. So yeah, so I just wanted to let everybody know because I know some of you are used to seeing me on a lot of these calls, etc. So that's my announcement.
We will miss you, as I think I told you in my note to you, that great for you, sad for us, but good and bad for us. I mean, you're going to obviously be doing a lot of great work on a broader basis, but we will miss you here.
I'll still be around, Steve. You're not going to get rid of me that easily.
Certainly hope so. Any other announcements, questions anybody wants to share this morning?
Hey, can you hear me, Steve? This is Tamara.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Go ahead, Tamara.
Oh, yeah. No, I just missed the date and time of the Pima County meeting. Can I get that date again?
Well, it is in the chat, and I know that you're on the phone. I believe you're on the phone, but I will be sharing. I will be sharing the chat and the link and all that kind of good stuff. So you will get that.
Fantastic.
But Michelle, you just want to remind people of the date.
It's on March and is from 8 to 12. We are going to serve breakfast and have snacks for everybody as well. This is an in-person only event this time. Future events, we will have either be virtual or we will have hybrid options as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Okay, any other questions or comments if anybody has? Okay, so as you all probably know, that I am going to stop the recording